we will provide a 66 billion RMB yuan credit line to support LAC countries' development. China stands ready to join hands with our LAC partners to launch 5 programs that advance our shared development and revitalization and contribute to the China LAC community with a shared future.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends, although China and LAC region are geographically distant, the bonds of our friendship stretch back through centuries. As early as in the 16th century, Nao de China, or ships of China, laden with friendship, shuttled across the Pacific, marking the dawn of interactions and exchanges between China and the LAC region. From the 1960s onward, as New China established diplomatic ties with some LAC countries, exchanges and cooperation between the two sides became closer and closer. Since the turn of the century, and in particular in recent years, China and LAC countries have ushered in a historic era of building a shared future. We stand shoulder to shoulder and support each other. China appreciates the long-standing commitment of LAC countries that have diplomatic ties with China to the One China principle. China firmly supports LAC countries in pursuing development paths suited to their national conditions, safeguarding sovereignty and independence, and opposing external interference. In the 1960s, mass rallies and demonstrations took place across China in support of the Panamanian people's rightful claim to sovereignty over the Panama Canal. In the 1970s, during the Latin American campaign for 200 nautical mile maritime rights, China voiced its resolute and unequivocal support for the legitimate demands of developing countries. For 32 consecutive times since 1992, China has consistently voted for the UN General Assembly resolutions calling for an end to the US embargo against Cuba. We ride the tide of progress together to pursue win-win cooperation. Embracing the trend of economic globalization, China and LAC countries have deepened cooperation in trade, investment, finance, science and technology, infrastructure, and many other fields. Under the framework of high-quality Belt and Road cooperation, the two sides have implemented more than 200 infrastructure projects, creating over 1 million jobs. The China-LAC Satellite Cooperation Program has set a model for high-tech South-South cooperation. The inauguration of Shanghai Port in Peru has established a new land and sea connectivity link between Asia and Latin America. China has signed free trade agreements with Chile, Peru, Costa Rica, Ecuador, and Nicaragua. Last year, trade between China and LAC countries exceeded $500 billion for the first time, an increase of over 40 times from the beginning of this century. Facts have shown that China and the LAC countries are advancing hand in hand as a community with a shared future. This community of ours is founded upon equality, powered by mutual benefit and win-win, invigorated by openness and inclusiveness, and dedicated to the people's well-being. It exhibits enduring vitality and holds immense promise.
各位嘉宾
Distinguished delegates, friends. The century-defining transformation is accelerating across the globe, with multiple risks compounding one another. Such developments make unity and cooperation among nations indispensable for safeguarding global peace and stability, and for promoting global development and prosperity. There are no winners in tariff wars or trade wars. Bullying or hegemonism only leads to self-isolation. China and the LAC countries are important members of the Global South. Independence and autonomy are our glorious tradition. Development and revitalization are our inherent right. And fairness and justice are our common pursuit. In the face of seething undercurrents of geopolitical and bloc confrontation, and the surging tide of unilateralism and protectionism, China stands ready to join hands with our LAC partners to launch 5 programs that advance our shared development and revitalization and contribute to the China-LAC community with a shared future. The first is Solidarity Program. China will work with LAC countries to support each other on issues bearing on our respective core interests and major concerns. We must enhance exchanges in all fields and strengthen communication and coordination on major international and regional issues. In the next 3 years, to facilitate our exchanges on national governance best practices, China will invite 300 members from political parties of CELAC member states every year to visit China. China supports the efforts by LAC countries in increasing their influence on the multilateral stage. We will work with LAC countries to firmly safeguard the international system with the United Nations at its core and the international order underpinned by international law, and to speak with one voice in international and regional affairs. The second is Development Program. China will work with LAC countries to implement the Global Development Initiative. We will resolutely uphold the multilateral trading system, ensure stable, unimpeded global industrial and supply chains, and promote an international environment of openness and cooperation. We should foster greater synergy between our development strategies, expand high-quality Belt and Road cooperation, and bolster cooperation in traditional areas such as infrastructure, agriculture and food, and energy and minerals. We should expand cooperation in emerging areas such as clean energy, 5G telecommunications, the digital economy, and artificial intelligence, and carry out the China-LAC Science and Technology Partnership. China will increase imports of quality products from LAC countries and encourage its enterprises to expand investment in the LAC region. We will provide a 66 billion yuan credit line to support LAC countries' development. The third is Civilization Program. China will work with LAC countries to implement the Global Civilization Initiative. We should uphold the vision of equality, mutual learning, dialogue, and inclusiveness between civilizations, and champion humanity's common values of peace, development, fairness, justice, democracy, and freedom. We should enhance China-LAC civilizational exchanges and mutual learning, including through a conference on China-LAC inter-civilizational dialogue. We should deepen cultural and artistic exchanges and cooperation, and hold the Latin American and Caribbean arts season. We should strengthen exchanges and cooperation in cultural heritage fields, such as joint archaeological projects, conservation and restoration of ancient and historic sites, and museum exhibitions. We should also carry out collaborative studies of ancient civilizations and enhance cooperation to combat illicit trafficking of cultural property. The fourth is Peace Program. China will work with LAC countries to implement the Global Security Initiative. China supports the proclamation of Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace, and the declaration of the member states of the Agency for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons in Latin America and the Caribbean. The two sides should cooperate more closely in disaster governance, cybersecurity, counterterrorism, anti-corruption, narcotics control, and combating transnational organized crime, so as to safeguard security and stability in the region. China will organize law enforcement training programs tailored to the needs of CELAC member states and do our best to provide equipment assistance. The fifth is People-to-People Connectivity Program. In the next 3 years, China will provide CELAC member states with 3,500 government scholarships, 10,000 training opportunities in China, 500 international Chinese language teachers scholarships, 300 training opportunities for poverty reduction professionals, and 1,000 funded placements through the Chinese Bridge program. We will initiate 300 small and beautiful livelihood projects, actively promote vocational education cooperation programs. China will host the China-LAC tourism dialogue with LAC countries. To facilitate friendly exchanges, China has decided to implement a visa exemption for 5 LAC countries as the first step, and will expand this policy coverage at proper times. Distinguished delegates, friends, as an 11th century Chinese poet wrote, life's greatest joy comes from finding kindred spirits. Latin America has a similar proverb which goes, "The one who has a friend has a treasure." No matter how the world changes, China will always stand by LAC countries as a good friend and a good partner. Let us march forward together on our path towards modernization, working together to write a new chapter in building the China-LAC community with a shared future.